And we are live. Greetings, everyone, all of you, my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villain aficionados. Welcome beyond the new to another Shadow Council episode. And today, boy, do we have a treat about a certain friendly neighborhood, so to speak. Yeah, like, oh my god. Anyway, I'm your host, Laura Shadows, as always. This is Film Review Central, and deep down is, of course, none other than TK, the lucky bastard. Again, all of you guys, welcome for joining me to this crazy Shadow Council episode, as always. Okay, then.
Thank you very much. No,
Thank
I
you.
was just going to say thank you very much for having me. Much appreciated. Really, really pleased to be back.
I mean, for you, TK, you're. Go ahead.
Don't worry. There'll be no talk of eating children today.
Oh, bloody hell! You know what? I think like I'm sometimes wondering if Pennywise is your best friend. Bloody hell! Anyway, I mean seriously, we just started. I didn't even do an introduction to the episode, and immediately we're going bonkers. I mean, that's a fucking record. Yeah, anyway, before we make our viewers wonder, what the hell we're talking about, basically today's episode we're gonna be talking about your own very own iconic friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, or as I like to call this episode, Into the Web, basically. Oh my
Very
god,
nice.
this is beg your pardon?
Very nice. It's lovely wordplay. Very good.
Thank you. I try my best. Anyway, without any further ado, let's make this conversation juicy, shall we? All right, then. So we start with, as I like to call it, first contact. And I'm not talking about aliens. I'm talking about first ever contact with Spider-Man. So I'm gonna choose FRC because he's in this very rarely with us. So you're gonna go first, sir, as your very first Spider-Man contact. What was it?
Well, in terms of meeting, I've never met a Spider-Man, but if I had to say first contact, I mean Spider-Man is, alongside Batman and Superman, is one of the biggest comic book characters of all time. I mean, I can give you like a serious answer based on this being like a movie and TV and games and but actually, remember the first contact was like walking into a toy store and seeing the Spider-Man everywhere. Like, I love Spider-Man. I had everything from like the spider web shooter that I got, and I can remember going around like grandparents' houses and just shooting little spider discs out of it and seeing how far it can go. And I definitely grew up in a time when the Spider-Man movies had come out, the Tobey Maguire trilogy. So Spider-Man was going into this like live action phase and it doing absolutely fantastically well. But yeah, I'd definitely say a lot of the toys, the animations. My dad was a big fan of the animations back in the 80s and 90s. And, I kind of went in and, enjoyed this hero because he's just such a cool hero, seeing a teenager be a superhero. So yeah, definitely a very childish, innocent introduction to Peter Parker.
All right, then. What about you, TK? What was your ever first introduction, or as I like to call it, first contact with Spider-Man?
I think my first introduction was one of my friends had a Spider-Man toy that I really wanted, and he gave it to me after I really badgered him for it. So I can be very persistent, but anyhow.
Oh, we know.
We know that.
But he gave it to me. I think that was my first real introduction to Spider-Man, and then I saw Spider-Man 3 in the theaters. I didn't actually watch 1 and 2 until after No Way Home came out. But I think my first experience, my first contact with Spider-Man was that Spider-Man toy. And then I think when I really got into it was with the MCU. I don't think I really watched too many I watched an episode here, an episode there of Spider-Man TV shows, but really I think general overall first introduction was the toy, and then Spider-Man 3, and then the cinematic universe. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, for me personally, I would say my overall first contact with Spider-Man didn't come from a toy section. That's for sure. My overall introduction to Spider-Man was like, just like for FRC, I grew up with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. So I would say it was a mixture, for me, it was a mixture of the first Spider-Man movie with Spider-Man, the animated series from the 90s. I would say like those two, types, the first movie and that particular TV show was kind of like my overall introduction to not just simply Spider-Man, but also like the overall world of Spider-Man. So basically, your encounter with him basically came from almost everywhere. For me, it came from the screen, basically. But anyway, it's still interesting to see, others people like, kind of like introduction to characters. Like, I always find that fascinating. Now, with that, here we start our overall tour of the minefield, basically. So, which my next, of course, topic is going to be like Spider-Man comics. Now, my question to you is, what was your very first Spider-Man comic you ever read? FRC?
I think it was definitely one that was linked with Venom as the villain. Because I can remember watching Spider-Man 3, not in the cinema because I was too young, but I can remember watching Spider-Man 3 and then seeing this like Venom character and then obviously exploring different things. And then we got obviously we saw all these other villains because I looked at Batman and looked at this like rogue gallery of villains with all of his different villains. And then I was like, will there be is there like a Marvel interpretation of that? And obviously there was, because Spider-Man's got so many creative villains and, with the six, with obviously the six villains, teaming up. And it was just, that's where, Spider-Man really excelled, was in all these different villains and how creative that they were. So a lot of them were very just simple Spider-Man comics. What I will say, which is the Spider-Man comics is my biggest collection of comics for a superhero. Just because I think he's been one of my favorite comic book characters for a while. So it's took me it's given me the longest amount of time to collect them. But something that is really cool, which kind of cements the fact that I am such a big Spider-Man fan, is for my 18th birthday, I got given a Spider-Man comic that was released on September the 11th, 2002. Now, that might just seem like a very random date, but while Marvel were celebrating releasing their latest Spider-Man comic, my mum and dad was welcoming their first child, which was me. It was released on the exact day. It was released on the exact day that I was born, and that's really special to kind of see that happen. So that it's one of the astonishing Spider-Man's comic book runs, and it's one of them where I've opened it a few times, but I just don't want to touch it. It's like that sentimental thing where it's like, in Toy Story 2 when they put Woody behind like the glass compartment. Mm-hmm. I want to do it with that. I wanted to do it with that comic just because it's so special. So I absolutely love Spider-Man comics. I can't get enough of them.
Wow, I mean that is absolutely beautiful. The way how you describe your overall first contact with the Spider-Man comics, absolutely adorable. Oh my God. No wonder you treat that comic like it was a piece of gold.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What about you, TK? What was your first?
Okay, well, I definitely can't top that.
Yeah. Try and top that. Try and top that. I've raised the bar.
Yeah, I definitely can't top that. And let me. I'm trying to think. Okay, so no, nobody. Okay, so I can't top that. So I'm trying to think what my. So I'll tell you what my favorite Spider-Man. So this is what I'm going to say isn't exclusively a Spider-Man comic, but it's Spider-Man in a comic, and it's my favorite one. Is I love how they used Spider-Man in the Civil War comic. I love how they gave him more of a backbone, and kind of made him turn on Tony at like halfway through I loved it. I wish they'd adapted that part, but I loved that because it really kind of showed, at least for me, because I've read some Spider-Man comics here and there. I mean, I haven't read. I'm not like too into them, but I've read them here and there. To me, that showed a different side of him. That showed more like of a backbone. That showed more of like he can make decisions. And I also have some books I got at a comic book store. They're like compilations, I guess, of Spider-Man comics. They're old school. And I really like one thing I really like about them is, especially the vintage ones, is I always was attracted to the colors in them, how they're a lot brighter. They're a lot like more what's the word? Brighter, but they're a lot more retro, I guess.
Like bold,
yeah.
retro and bold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I've always liked about the Spider-Man comics I've read is they just have like that retro vibe. I've read some of the ones that are newer, but I kind of like the retro ones better, if I'm being honest.
Okay, fair enough. Unfortunately, you didn't top FRC's story, but
No.
still, it's a good one. It's definitely a good one.
I'm so sorry. I've turned up. I've turned up. I've got in the way. My apologies.
Come on, don't be so dramatic. Oh my god. No, I mean, absolutely, like both your stories are really really beautiful, and the way how basically your encounters were. But even with me, when it comes to Spider-Man comics, like my very first one, okay, there are two, but one of them had like two mini stories, so I would say two comic books, to kind of be fair. So my very first introduction to Spider-Man comic books was definitely like one of them was where Spider-Man was fighting the Hulk, and the other one were basically like two mini stories in one. Where basically like the one part he was fighting Sandman, and the other one he was like fighting Doctor Doom. Where basically also the Fantastic Four, kind of got involved in everything. Like so those were like my very first like Spider-Man comic books that I could remember. And again, he introduced, and one of them basically introduced me to one of the, I think, like one of the most sadistic but like coolest like members of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, for sure. I mean, what FRC basically said is like, like when it comes to the DC universe, Batman is the one who has the most like colorful Rogues Gallery. But when it comes to Marvel, I definitely have to agree that Spider-Man is the one that has like the most biggest and like colorful, and I would even go as far as say imaginative Rogues Gallery out of all of them, basically. Which is actually one of the reasons why I love the 90s Spider-Man TV show. Like, oh man, so many cool villains that were shown back then. Now here comes the most difficult part. Now, as we all three of us, we have seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse. We both seen these movies, so we kind of got the idea there's plenty, like multiple different Spider-Mans across the Marvel universe. So my question to you right now, and I know this is going to be a tough one, but who is your favorite Spider-Man? Now, again, I'm not talking about actors or voice actors. I'm talking like actual Spider-Mans. Like, who are your favorites?
I mean, you can't. I mean, I know this is going to be all right, I'm going to give two because I think the hack answer is obviously Peter Parker. I don't know whether you can say anything other different. What I will say for a bit more creativity is Hobie from Across the Spider-Verse was really, really great because I think he gave, as we said, as TK said, a retro style. He had this kind of cool, kind of like this coolness to him, but also, he generally understands the situation that Miles is in that movie. And I think that his character is very, very underrated in all of his development. You look at the way that character kind of almost like sticks up for him in a lot of ways, understands the craziness that all of the Spider-Man group kind of portrays onto him. I think he's a really underrated Spider-Man. I'd love to see him in his own show just to kind of explore his world, because it was touched on when they mentioned that Gwen had gone and spent time in his world. So I would have loved to have seen that. I think that would have been a really, really cool world. So for me, I think Hobie definitely gets some massive credit, just because I think that film had so many big responsibilities, but I think he was definitely very comedic, very fun, very cool, and had such a retro kind of vibe to him. Also, Spider-Man Noir is great. Love to see what they're going to do with him in his own show. Hopefully they don't mess it up. But I think he was the standout for me at the supporting characters from Into the Spider-Verse. Hobie was the standout from Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay. Pretty nice answer. What about you, TK?
Okay, so I think definitely Peter Parker. I agree. I don't think there's any way that Peter Parker can't be one of them. I think my second choice. I think my second choice. I don't know. I think my second choice might be Spider-Man 2099, because I liked the character. I thought he was really rough around the edges. I think there's a lot more that and hopefully they will explore with him and beyond. Because I really like his setup. I really like how he's kind of set up as like he's a little bit of an antagonist. And I'm going to be curious to see where they go with him, like how much they lean into that, because I like the setup. I kind of like the character. I think he would be my second choice.
Okay.
What I will say about his character, and I know that me and Al kind of have, maybe different opinions of this, as he is the villain master, but a lot of people do. What I love the comic book villains, the best ones is you kind of understand their motivation and why they're doing what they're doing. And I think that Spider-Man 2099 is definitely like that, almost like a Thanos and a Killmonger. When you kind of watch the film and go, you know what, you're doing this not in the best way, but you're doing it for the right reasons, personal reasons. And I definitely think he's another one there. And played fantastically by Oscar Isaac as well, who seems to want to be in every single franchise possible. I mean, the MCU, Spider-Man, Star Wars, the man's everywhere.
Yeah. I agree. Spider-Man 2099 or 2099. Even though I love the way I do agree. I love the way how he was portrayed in the movie. But even though I do remember from the comics, he's actually a little bit more villainous than what he was in the movie. I always found him to be one of the most complicated versions of Spider-Man. For sure when it comes to overall as a character. And I'm saying that in a good way. Now, of course, we all said no one can beat the original Spider-Man. Peter Parker. No one can beat him. But besides him, even for me, I will go on. I'm gonna go also with like for example, Spider-Man 2099. I really liked him in the comics, and I really liked him in the movie as well. And I hope to see more of him. Besides those two, I'm also going with Spider-Man Noir. I love him in the movie, but I also really love his comic book issues. The overall age of I think it was during World War II in the comics. where he was set, basically, or was it like in the 30s? I'm not quite. I don't quite remember. But overall, I just love his style. And also, besides them, I'm also gonna. I don't know if you are familiar with them, but like, one of them who you're definitely familiar with. And even though I know he was supposed to be a parody, but I still like these overall, like, little appearances in the comics. But but one of them definitely is Spider-Ham.
Yeah.
Because even though he is a parody of Spider-Man, but like I just simply love the overall kind of like Looney Tune type of like Spider-Man version, basically. I just love that. I mean, when you read his comics, you simply read them for fun, basically. But with them, I will also add two more, and then one of them is definitely Spider-Woman. And the other one is I don't know if you remember, I don't know if you know her, but is Silk.
So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they were also supposed to do a TV show about her, but unfortunately it became canceled. But I think like so out of all the Spider-Mans, those are like I would say kind of like my favorite ones. Besides Peter Parker. So basically the original, then 2099, Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, Spider-Woman, and of course Silk. Those are for me. Even though it kind of feels harsh, but like I none of us mentioned Miles Morales as Spider-Man, as far as I've heard. But even though he was never one of my favorite Spider-Mans, but I still liked his character. I still liked his overall story and background. So even though he's not one of my favorite ones, I still liked his overall character and the overall character arc they gave him in the comics and of course throughout the movies. Yeah, I mean it's still a kind of odd.
I do think as
Go
well.
ahead.
I was just going to say about Miles Morales. I think his story, particularly in the movie sense, which a lot of people they'll know him from, is not yet complete. And I think that's what people are waiting for. They're waiting for this final chapter in this trilogy, just because there's so much weight on his character and on his shoulders. Following the end of Across the Spider-Verse, I think a lot of people are still thinking, okay, we've got to give this final film this overall push, to kind of get him, because I definitely think he's a great character. I just think we need to wait for this kind of last movie to kind of make sure that his character is as solid as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree on that. And I cannot wait to see his story to be concluded. And even though I really have no idea, when the movie is going to be released, because for what I've heard from the recent news, it's going to be quite a while for us to wait for the third and final chapter of his journey, But just like you, I still want to see the way how it's concluded, And also, I mean, I will say this: I even like Miles Morales in the video game as well, like like Spider-Man 1 and 2. Like I even like his story even there, So overall, he's not a bad Spider-Man for sure.
I'll be honest, I liked him a lot better in Across the Spider-Verse as opposed to Into the Spider-Verse. I don't know. I thought his character was better. I don't know. I just didn't connect with it as well. I just didn't connect with it as well as Into the Spider-Verse as I did with Across, I guess.
No, I get you. I can totally see your reason why. That. Yeah, I mean, I can totally see your reasons behind it, And for me personally, I would say, I would definitely say, like, in the first movie, he was cool. But I will agree with you guys that in the second one, I liked him even more, and that's all about the character progression thing. So now, speaking of, it's time to basically go into the dark side of Spider-Man, which of course is Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. Like I mean, we mentioned before, Batman's in the DC universe, Batman's Rogues Gallery is the strongest. In the Marvel, I would say that trophy goes to Spider-Man. Oh my God. Like throughout the comics, movies, TV shows, and video games, like, Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, oh my God. Like every single one of them, like from either bonkers or, ridiculous to iconic to epic to colorful to imaginative, every single one of them is unique. in their own way. So, and so my first question is this, and we're gonna start with an easy one on this one. So my first question with the Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery, FRC, you're going first. Which was your first Spider-Man villain that you were introduced to?
Green Goblin. I mean, he's kind of like Spider-Man's version of the Joker for Batman, where they could use that character over and over again. And obviously the link with Harry and that kind of friendship, and obviously all the science elements, and you can kind of do it in very different ways. So that would be the first one, just because I think I wouldn't say it was overused. It was just, it's very, very easy to kind of make a Spider-Man project with kind of Green Goblin attached. But I mean, Doc Ock has always had a massive type of presence. Obviously, I think the Lizard gets a lot animated wise, just because I think people like to animate kind of animals into it. So I'll definitely say Green Goblin, just because he is probably the most popular Spider-Man villain that there has been.
Okay. What about you, TK? What was your first Spider-Man villain you encountered?
I think mine was probably through like the toys, the Green Goblin from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. But in the actual movies, I think it would have been Venom, or it would have been Venom / Sandman / Harry Osborn Green Goblin.
Okay, fair enough. For me, I would say it's a tie between, like I mentioned, because since I grew up with the first movie and the Spider-Man the animated series. So I would say for me it was a tie between the Green Goblin and also Kingpin from the animated series. I was like, those were kind of like my two overall Spider-Man villains that I was introduced to, and when I just want to say this, Kingpin, even though he's a criminal mastermind and gangster, I was like, man, like this Baldy is like such a cool character. Oh my god, like he like I was like, there's a villain with class, basically. Let's put it this way. There's a villain with style, even though he is ginormous, And also, I do agree with FRC. I mean, the Green Goblin in the Spider-Man villain, like he was always basically the kind of like the Spider-Man's version of the Joker, basically. So yeah, my overall first introduction, I will definitely go with the Green Goblin and the Kingpin from the animated series. I mean, both villains, like very iconic, not just throughout the comics, but like through all sorts of like media as well. I mean, just look at Michael Clark Duncan or Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Of course, no one can beat Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. No one. That's for sure. So, yeah. So my next question is this. Now we have talked about the first encounter. Now, what are your... let's make it difficult. What are your top 5 favorite Spider-Man villains? FRC?
In order?
No. You can mix them up as you wish.
And sorry, I'm asking so many sub questions here. I think I might get muted in a minute. Is it like character performances, like people performing the villains, or is it just villains in general? Because that changes things.
Okay. So let me be more detailed. Villains as characters, not like performances, as characters.
Okay. Because for me, the one that didn't get justice at all is Kraven. And Kraven's a great character from the comics, but done so poorly in the movie, which we will not talk about anymore. So Kraven 5, I am going to go in order, by the way. Kraven 5, 4. Oh man, this is definitely top 3 is going to be Venom at 3, Doc Ock at 2, Green Goblin at 1. And do you know what? The Vulture, probably number 4.
Okay. Pretty good list. UTK.
I'm gonna go Green Goblin, Doc Ock, Electro, Venom, the Rhino.
Okay.
The Rhino, because we never really got a good Rhino.
Yeah. I
Actually,
think
that's not true. We got a good silhouette of the Rhino in No Way Home,
Mm.
Yeah, we
was
did.
which was
Yeah.
for me, which for me was far better than what we got in the Amazing Spider-Man. That silhouette was actually better than what we saw in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. So yeah, so that's why I'm picking the Rhino as number 5, because I like him. I like the character. We need a good live action Rhino.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so and again, all of both of your lists are pretty good, solid choices. Now for me, my favorite. Now I know that for me, my favorite top 5 Spider-Man villains. Now I will be fair here, because primarily the Kingpin is a Daredevil villain, not actually a Spider-Man one.
That's why.
So
That's why I didn't put him on. That was what I was thinking. I just thought if we're adding Kingpin in, he would definitely be in. But I just don't class him as a Spider-Man villain.
yeah, he goes more into the Daredevil territory than Spider-Man, But even though he appeared against Spider-Man multiple times, but I'm not gonna put him on the list for sure. So I'm going with for some people this might be controversial a little bit, but so I'm gonna start with this. I don't know if you ever heard of this villain, but one of my top 5, and I still think she's underrated. And just like Polka Dot Man in the DC universe, she's considered as a joke. But I still liked her in the comics, and I really hope to see her in in a TV show or a movie. But number 5, I'm going with White Rabbit. Yeah, she's kind of she is basically Spider-Man's Mad Hatter, basically. That's the easiest way to put it. She's basically his Mad Hatter, the White Rabbit. Even though basically, and she basically has a gang, and she's kind of a normal thief type of criminal. But she sometimes has her gang dressed up as Alice in Wonderland costumes. And there was even an issue where Spider-Man fought her, and she was literally driving a mechanical rabbit. I'm not kidding you. A mechanical rabbit the size of a tank. And again, some people might thought it was stupid. For me, it was cool. So I'm going with White Rabbit. Then I'm going to go with Hobgoblin, Carnage. Then of course I have to choose Carnage. And of course, I have to choose Dr. Octopus. Out of all the main villains, he was always one of my favorites. And also, I'm a sucker for Mad Scientist. But also the 5th one, because I still think as a villain he's underappreciated. But the 5th one I'm going to choose is Chameleon. Those are my top 5 Spider-Man villains. Like I said, White Rabbit, Hobgoblin, Dr. Octopus, Chameleon, and Carnage. And I could definitely see a lot of people thinking what? No Green Goblin, no Venom, or what the hell are you thinking? You put all these villains, change the list or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, those are my top 5 villains. Even from the comics to the different TV shows and movies, I always liked them, and out of all of them, they're the ones who kind of made a bigger impact on me when it comes to the overall villain life, for sure. Now, and also I think and again, out of all the villains, I still think villains like White Rabbit or Hobgoblin, I think they deserve much more respect. as villains. But here comes the interesting part. Now, FRC kind of mentioned it before, so here's my question. Now we go into the choosing your favorite villains through performances. So, which of all the actors, which is your number one performance when it comes to Spider-Man villains? FRC?
There's no. I mean, we can have a debate if we want to, because that's why we kind of do these live streams and videos, and that's why we all get honest, because we love movies so much. But there's no doubt in my mind that it's Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe. I mean, we've seen over the last few years the comic book films get nominated more in Academy Awards. The same way that I'm going to say a controversial statement here. The same way that Joaquin Phoenix won the Best Actor Oscar for the Joker, I will say that I do believe that Willem Dafoe deserved at least a nomination for his Best Supporting Actor as Green Goblin in that 2002 Spider-Man. And then again, to go back into that role 19 years later, nearly 2 decades later, in No Way Home, when you've got all of them villains, and for that, and I think it made the absolute perfect choice to say, we got all these villains, but we need a main one. We need somebody who's going to drive the villain arc, and then everybody else can kind of be in the background. Okay, we're going to choose Green Goblin. Is probably the best choice that Marvel made in Phase 4, because they made a lot of absolutely shit ones. What a phenomenal performance! I mean, everyone bangs on about Willem Dafoe should play Joker. Yes, but if you want to see that a performance like that, go and watch that 2002 film. Easily one of the best parts about it. And for me personally, Alfred Molina was great as Doc Ock. If somebody turned around and said, "Yeah, no, he's the best," I'd respect that. I'd go to sleep tonight very, very happy. But for me personally, there's no doubt in my mind that Willem Dafoe definitely deserves this award as being the best villain in the Shadow Council.
Okay, then. UTK?
So I would say that William Dafoe's the Green Goblin, and then what's the guy's name who played Doc Ock? Alfred, what's his name?
Alfred Molina.
Yeah, Alfred Molina. I think those two are fairly even, but I would agree with FRC. I would say that William Dafoe's Green Goblin is better. I think he is. I love how his voice kind of like changes halfway through the No Way Home movie, and like he gets that demented voice. I love that. I think that's well played. And he's perfect in the role. Now, one performance I think was a little bit underrated in No Way Home. I wouldn't put anywhere near William Dafoe. But I would say it was underrated was Jamie Foxx as Electro. I liked him much better in that than I did in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, especially because he wasn't blue. That made all the difference. But I loved his character in No Way Home. I thought it was really underrated. So I would give him an honorable mention, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. Well, if in this case, looks like we're going to have a trifecta going on, because even for me, when it comes to wise, the best performance out of all of them, and even though I appreciate every single one of them equally, when it comes to their overall performance, each of them give their best. But for me, the number one, the guy who takes the trophy home, is definitely just like you guys, is Willem Dafoe. I mean, seriously, like the guy was, if I can put it that way, the guy was a fucking revelation.
Yeah,
the way how he portrayed the Green Goblin, like you mentioned before, like the way how his mannerism changes, from the changes of the facial expressions, the voice, the laugh, almost all the things that he said, especially as Green Goblin, are one of the few of the most iconic villain quotes ever. basically. So yeah, definitely. Like I do agree with Willem Dafoe. Either for the first like Tobey Maguire like Spider-Man movies or in No Way Home, like he should have gotten at least a nomination when it comes to Oscars and everything, like because his performance as Willem Dafoe as a Dafoe that's Rich playing himself. Oh my god, can you imagine an actor getting a reward for playing himself? Basically, I mean, that would be revolutionary.
Not. Hopefully not playing with themselves. I mean, hopefully not that. But yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. You got me worried about where that was going then. Honestly, I was a little bit worried.
No.
I was like, ooh.
No. I mean, like the way I was talking, like the way he was playing Green Goblin. Also, can we just simply praise Willem Dafoe that he even wanted to do his own stunts?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, like there were moments where, of course, they used a double, of course, but like the majority of the stunts he pulled them off. And I love the way how Willem Dafoe, when he was doing No Way Home, he said, that look, I'm gonna return as Green Goblin under one condition: if I do my own stunts. I mean, the guy was like in his 60s, and he did a remarkable job when his overall, stunts and everything. But again, so yeah, the trophy definitely goes to Willem Dafoe. Now, okay, this one is going to be a cruel question, but I want to ask you guys, which, in your opinion, is the worst villain performance when it comes to Spider-Man villains?
Mm-hmm.
FRC, go.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot.
You have to choose the worst.
I'm trying to be. I know. Do you know what? I think everyone's so quick to go Rhino. But I think it was just so shoehorned into the end of that movie that I don't think a lot of people were. I wouldn't say that they weren't bothered, but I don't think it was particularly harsh. Just because I think they were trying to shoehorn him in to let everyone know, so then they can do the Super Six villain film, which never took off. But I think
Sinister Six.
To me, Sinister Six. My apologies. So for me, I think what is worse than that is when you spend more time with the villain. The villain from Madam Web was terrible. So forgettable in that movie. Personally, the one that really hurt was Harry Osborn's Green Goblin, because I think the beginning of Spider-Man 3 was this really kind of like, brothers kind of torn apart by this massive reveal, and he went into a very dark place like his dad. And I was like, yeah, cool. If they have just given me that villain, fine. But obviously they decided not to do that. They decided to then get James Franco basically in the hospital bed for the rest of that film. And then for him to kind of just ultimately like forgive him because he can't remember. I think that was the one where I just thought that's ridiculous. But that's probably the most disappointing. But when you're saying the worst, I mean, Venom in Spider-Man 3 was poor. The Lizard, just because it's kind of hard to make that like remotely interesting, kind of a scientist experiment gone wrong, is very stereotypical. I'm not the biggest fan of Mysterio in Far From Home, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that film in general. I've got a lot of problems with that film. But overall, I've got to say, probably the Venom in Spider-Man 3 it got Tobey Maguire dancing in all sorts of random ways. So probably that one for me.
Okay, then. Fair enough. TK, the round is yours.
Okay, so I'll start by saying, I'm going to agree with FRC on one thing really quick with Far From Home. That when I first saw that, I wasn't crazy about it. I had some problems with it too. I think the problem you had with No Way Home is it came out so close to Endgame that everybody was comparing it so much to Endgame. And it was nowhere near Endgame. It was nowhere near as good. I think if it had come out a year later than Endgame, it might have been better. Or if it had even come out like December, it might have been better. So I think part of why that was not good was the symptom of when it came out. But as far as the villains, so I'm also going to agree with FRC and disagree with him too at the same time. I agree with him about Harry Osborn's Green Goblin. However, I disagree with the version of the Green Goblin. I actually didn't mind the Harry Osborn version of the Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, or in Spider-Man 3, but in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, that version of the Green Goblin for Harry Osborn, I hated that. I thought the visual effects were bad. I thought the buildup was poor with it. It wasn't really believable to me either. So yeah, I think that's my least favorite Spider-Man villain.
Okay. By the way, when I said performances, you guys know that also other Sony movies counts as well. So I just wanted to make it clear if you.
Well, if that's the case, villains in Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Venom: The Last Dance, Craven, Morbius, Madam Web. I think we're done. Thank you very much.
Oh bloody hell!
I have been FRC. Good night.
All right then, get out. Oh my god! No. For me personally.
Oh, wait, one thing. I want to give one honorable mention for the Vulture because I liked him in Homecoming, but they botched his character with Morbius.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Absolutely, I agree with that one. I'm really kind of glad that they kind of like immediately switched, in which like the Vulture returned to his own MCU world. After the whole Morbius shenanigans. I could definitely see their faces, like basically saying like, okay, we're gonna try to bring the Vulture into this world, kind of like so we can do maybe some interesting stuff with him. And then basically after everything fell to shit, they just simply say, you know what? Let's get him back to the original MCU. Chop. I mean, let's go. And then whoosh, he's back. But anyway,
it's just for me, that entire decision just did not make sense. I don't know why they decided to go down that idea. Nobody wanted it. Nobody was asking for it. Like, it was at the end of Morbius, and to be honest with you, Morbius was a really difficult cinema experience. So to me, it was just like the icing on the top of the cake, where you've just delivered a quite shit film, and then now not only have you said we're going to be potentially making more of this, we're also going to bring in a villain and ruining a villain that was so good in Homecoming. I didn't mind it just because it was just a quick little thing, but I kind of knew it was never going to pick up because it was just failing. That whole universe was just failing at that point. But yeah, I just thought that was just like, why have you done it? Like, could you not just stay in your own shitty world? Why'd you have to bring in something that was good and ruin it?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, now speaking of that, like for me personally, the worst like villain performance, and again, I'm really heartbroken to say this because I really liked the guy as an actor. I've seen him in a lot of other different projects that he was really good. But the way how he portrayed the Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man 2, I have to go with the TK thing. Like, it was just simply horrible. It was just simply horrible. Like, like from the way how from the build-up all the way to the revelation to like the mannerism. Jesus, the way how he looked like a homeless drunk.
Yeah.
With like a homeless drunk with like facial paralysis or something. Like, and I'm like, I mean, like literally, and like seriously, a homeless drunk with facial paralysis who didn't brush his teeth for over like 2 months. And I was like, of all the things that they could have done, I was like, they went with that shitty design. I was like, and again with that creepy, with that creepy voice, like even the creepy. I mean, the Green Goblin is known to be creepy, but like his version of the creepiness, was shit. Like like the way he was like, Peter. Like I can definitely see him do him in his head, like, what the fuck I'm doing here? Why am I doing this? Like like he was like he sounded so desperate or something. Like so yeah, I'll definitely go with like his performance being like the worst villain performance. I mean, the only thing in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when it comes to villains, the only thing that saved that movie was Jamie Foxx's Electro.
Yeah.
Even though he was blue, I still liked him as a villain even more, and I was like, and I would have been happy if they kept him as the villain, and everything else just simply dropped, for something else. Oh man, but like I mean, all the other villains, like we mentioned, Morbius, we mentioned Kraven, we mentioned Rhino.
I mean,
both versions of Rhino. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say about the actor who played the Green Goblin in Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Yep.
And that's honestly the way he acts that poorly in the Spider-Man. It's the exact same way he acts in Valerian. Like he just acts so awkwardly. And I'm just like you're supposed to be a professional actor, aren't you? Like, why are you doing every performance so awkwardly? But
I mean,
yeah, no, he's not a good actor at all.
I I always thought as an actor, I've always thought he had potential. And I still believe he has potential to be a good actor because, like, again, there are a lot of different projects where he was actually pretty good with the talents that he possessed and everything. But and also again going a little bit off, like with the whole Valerian thing. I mean, I still from time to time I watch Valerian. But he was never meant for that role, honestly. Because I'm familiar with the Valerian comic books, and I can tell you right now, he was a miscast in that movie, Now
the thing about him in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is for me, if they had just kept him Harry Osborn and they had reworked the story a little bit, he could have worked as Harry Osborn. He could have worked well as just Harry Osborn. With a rework story, he could have worked, but he making him go down that road was a bet. He couldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree on that as well. Yeah, I mean, like everything about that movie, I'll like 95% of the things in the movie, it just simply didn't work, because that's one of the problems when you're like overstuffing it.
Well, I think 95% of that movie was they were trying to set it up for something else. And it didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, like they were setting it up for Amazing Spider-Man 3, and they were also setting it up for like I think like a Sinister Six movie, basically.
They were.
Yeah, they were. And and honestly, there's a difference when you're like naturally building up something with like overstuffing a movie, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was overstuffed. Because oh, by the way, we have a of course, our favorite Not Your Normal Geek. If you haven't mentioned it already, what are your thoughts on Rhys Ifans playing the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man? Came a long way from playing the DJ in Kevin and Perry Go Large. I mean, I thought he was all right. I thought his performance was okay as the Lizard. I mean, what do you guys think?
Just generic scientist. Didn't really kind of have. You can kind of tell where the arc was going. Didn't do anything in No Way Home. I mean, they stuffed him in a van for majority of the film when they went up in the tower. They just stuffed him in a van, and then there's that scene of like people walking past the van and then it making a noise and then just running away. That was the only thing I remember about Lizard in that film. So yeah, he was great actor. I've seen him in other stuff. but he wasn't great. But he is in Venom. He's in Venom 3, if you guys didn't know. Which is like really, I kind of wanted him to. Oh, okay, all right, chill. The dramatic. Who's dramatic now? It's your show. You're allowed to be. But no, I mean, I kind of wanted him to turn into the lizard in that one, because that would have been quite cool. But no, he was all right. It was okay. That film's so slow pacing wise anyway. Then there was much more problems about that. There's many other problems with that film, not just the villain.
What about you, TK? What did you thought of the overall actor's performance as the lizard?
I don't know. I mean, I liked it. It was okay. I mean, I don't think it was like anything phenomenal, but it was okay. It was okay. I didn't really mind it.
Okay. I mean, for me personally, like, for what it was, for what they gave him to do and everything, I liked it as well. I thought, I thought it wasn't bad, but it wasn't also like something like fantastic or anything. Like, I thought it was solid. He acted, as the lizard, pretty solid. In the Amazing Spider-Man movie, alongside the No Way Home. With the minimum stuff they gave him. But so basically my question to you now is, with all the Spider-Man villains that we have seen in movies, basically, from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy all the way to No Way Home. So my question to you guys is this: which villains that weren't introduced in the movies right now, which villains would you love to see appear on the screen, TV show and movies? Go. FRC.
Give me a minute. You say yours first, because I'm trying to think.
Okay, I'm going with TK then. TK.
Okay, you go first. Good. I need to think too.
Wow. I didn't thought that this question would be that heavy.
You should have prepared us.
Oh yeah, like what? Like I should have sent you like a complete script of like 40 pages or something.
No, not that much. Just a few decent comments here and there, if you could.
Sure.
Yeah, not 40 pages, more like 35.
Wise guy, Anyway, so basically, for me, I would the villains I would love to see appear like in the Spider-Man, like future movies and everything. I mean, okay, I will say this: we had them in Kraven the Hunter, but for future movies, I want to see his overall appearance on the screen basically done right. So my first villain on the list will definitely go with. I'm definitely going with the Chameleon, because we have seen him a little bit in Kraven the Hunter, but he wasn't used. I would say fairly in that movie. I thought like speaking of like undercooked villains, he was definitely undercooked. I would say he was raw in Kraven the Hunter. Raw in a bad way. So I would love to see the Chameleon in future, Spider-Man movies for sure, but this time done right. But besides him, I will also choose two more. One that I really want to see in the Spider-Man movies. Like one of them is definitely Hobgoblin. I want to definitely see Hobgoblin. And the third one that I love them in the Spider-Man game. I would love to see Mr. Negative. Those three villains for me are my top top three wish list members.
Mine, just to jump on the bandwagon of villains that we kind of saw very briefly but not fully developed. Scorpion. Obviously, we saw him being teased at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming. So for me personally, he would be a fantastic villain to have done in a live action film. Mr. Negative as well. I think he's a really good one. So yeah, they'd be my two.
Okay. TK?
Okay, I need to make sure she's a villain first. Well, okay. She's not a villain. She doesn't count. Okay, so I'm gonna go with Hobgoblin then. I think he'd be cool. Yeah, I like Hobgoblin.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
I'm also gonna go back real quickly. One villain I forgot to mention for and I think a lot of people would agree with this villain, especially for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is the wig that Jacob Batalon wears. I think it's evil. I think it's terrible. I think it should be burned. And I think it's the true villain of that Spider-Man trilogy.
I just love the fact that he never has a haircut. Like you would think, like out the whole 3 films, like his hair would somewhat change, and it just doesn't.
It just looks so bad.
I mean, it's a definitely shitty wig, that's for sure. I mean, sometimes you do wonder if it's actually like a living thing on his head, But do I think it's? Some sort of like But do we have here some kind of like Treehouse of Horror, Homer Simpson kind of shit thing going on? I don't think so. I don't think we have something like that here. But But okay, fair enough. But also, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this film, but there's also another one I'll definitely gonna choose. It's kind of like honorable mention. I would love to see him appear in a like a Spider-Man movie, and that is Black Tarantula.
Mm.
Yeah. I always found him to be like one of the most underrated Spider-Man villains. And I would love to see especially like Tom Holland Spider-Man go up against someone like Black Tarantula. I think that would be cool. Now, I'm gonna give you a once in a lifetime opportunity here, and that is: do you want to ask? Do you have any of your questions that you wish to ask the board?
When is this show done?
Don't worry. We will give you a bathroom break.
Thanks. Thank God.
Oh my God. Okay, well, I can assume there are no questions.
No, none from here.
Okay.
No,
TK?
I'm good. I would just ask a wise guy question.
Stubborn, eh? All right, then. Then we go to, I think, like one of the things that FRC will explode if he doesn't talk about. Well, of course, we're going now to the territory of Spider-Man TV shows. Now, before I go to, beg your pardon?
Why will I explode?
Because there's a certain Spider-Man TV show going on right now that you wish to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into that. I'll let you carry on.
Okay. I'm going to try to give a build-up to it, okay? I will build it up to it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Anyway.
Hurry up,
now answer that. You did say hurry up. No. So
I did. It's not working, but I did.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so my first question to you guys is this: like, what was your very first like Spider-Man TV show that you watched? FRC?
Spider-Man 98. I didn't watch it when it came out, but I watched it afterwards. And then there was loads of like. Do you guys remember Disney XD? Did you guys used to watch things on that? Yeah, that always had some form of Spider-Man show on that one, and that always used to be like I used to come in from football. I can always remember this. I used to play football in the mornings, like football training, and then I used to go home, have a bath. Probably this is an 18+ show, so I'm allowed to talk like that. So I was went in the bath, then I had some lunch, and when I was having my lunch, I watched. It was perfect time. The Spider-Man animated show on Disney XD came on, and then do you know when it said at the bottom, it was like now, next, later, and it was.
Oh yeah.
And then it was. I never used to watch the later one because I think it was like a princess show, which obviously I didn't watch. But the next, shut up, laughing by the way. The next one was Star Wars Clone Wars. So I had like Spider-Man animated and then Star Wars The Clone Wars. So I was in my element. I love my Saturdays. When I used to have my lunch and was watching them shows after running around kicking a ball of air.
Nice. What about you, TK?
First, a quick disclaimer: watching TV in the bath can go wrong very quickly.
No. Can I just clarify? I had my bath, then I had my lunch, and while I was eating my lunch, I wasn't eating my lunch in the bath. That is, I don't know what you were thinking there.
Yeah, see, I was picturing you in the bathtub.
Did you think I was?
I do hope.
Did you think I was eating? Hang on. Do you think I was eating a cheese sandwich in the bath, watching Spider-Man, going, "Yeah, this is great. Yeah, Star Wars. Yeah, great."
Were you? By the way, did you even?
No more questions. No more questions. Shut up.
Were you?
Move on.
Seriously.
Move on.
Seriously, like, were you holding a light bulb in your mouth?
I have no further comments, Your Honor.
Okay. We had our fun, Uncle Fester. Okay. No. Okay, TK. What was your? Now let's get serious.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was your first Spider-Man TV show you ever watched?
Okay, well, this first one is my real answer. So, the Ultimate Spider-Man on Disney XD, I loved that. Drake Bell as Spider-Man, he was somebody you wouldn't think would be a good Spider-Man, but he was. So I think the Ultimate Spider-Man, that was my favorite, although the Spectacular Spider-Man, I think that was the one on Kids WB, I think. I really like that. I like the animation in that. Yeah, I like those two. I think those are my two favorites. I also like there was a Spider-Man. This is not my real answer. This is my wise guy answer. I also liked the Spider-Man. It was about an alien that ate small children.
Was his name TK Wise? Did he say, "All right, kids, it's time to float"? But instead of having balloons, we have, like, floating cocoons.
And TK watched this specific episode in the bath.
Yeah.
Holding a light bulb in his mouth.
Yeah.
The only thing he needed was someone to drop a toaster in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did
Exactly.
you think was going on when I had a bath, by the way? Took a really random turn. I'm not going to come back on this show now.
TK, you dirty, dirty bastard.
I actually legitimately pictured him like with a cheese sandwich in the bath watching Spider.
Oh my God. Please, TK, don't give me pictures in my mind, even to me now.
No, do not stop. Honestly, this is gone.
No. I said no. Seriously, TK, don't try to give me images. Don't try to bring them in my head right now. Jesus. Anyway. Let's go away from the bathtub territory. Let's go to
Thank
something.
God.
Yeah, let's go somewhere else to dry ourselves. Basically.
Yes. The hot tub.
Seriously, do you need a bath or what?
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
Seriously, are you obsessed with baths or what? Bloody hell. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, To be fair, TK, like, what was the one where they had like those funny designs? The Ultimate Spider-Man or Amazing Spider-Man?
What designs were the?
Wait, it was like I know the Vulture was voiced by Freddy Krueger. What was the one? Shit. Let me think. Just let me think something. Oh man. Oh no, not that one. Not that one. What was the called? You know, that one that you mentioned was actually all right. What was the one I was talking about? Where is it? Not that one. Oh my god, I forgot. What was it called? Oh yeah, I remember now. The Spectacular Spider-Man. That's what it was called.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I never liked that show because, like, I never liked those designs. It
Those
was like,
designs- those grew on me a little bit.
yeah. I mean, I tried it multiple times. Like some of my friends told me, like, to kind of like go into those Spider-Man that Spider-Man TV show. I mean, I really tried, but I just didn't like them. I'm very nitpicky when it comes to like animation and specific like designs and everything, and it didn't work for me, to be honest. But I will give them credit for voice acting. No, the voice acting was spot on. I will give them that. In that show, actually, Freddy Krueger actor voiced the Vulture, and he actually did a freaking good job voicing the Vulture, making him like making him diabolical, but at the same time scary and creepy. Now, for me, the first ever Spider-Man TV show I watched, I have to go back to the Spider-Man the Animated Series from the 90s. Like that's the TV show I grew up with alongside the Spider-Man movies. And every time, like, this is like one of those shows that I binged, where I binged like, all the seasons multiple times in a row. Like for a Spider-Man the Animated Series from the 90s, I binged all the seasons. I think it has to be like over 12 times or something, because how good that TV show was and everything. Like I just simply loved it, and the stories were great. And also I loved the crossovers the Spider-Man the Animated Series had. Like you had a crossover with the X-Men, you had a crossover with the Fantastic Four, even with Incredible Hulk. Like because one of the things I love about it is because during the 90s, the 90s Incredible Hulk TV show or the Fantastic Four TV show, like even from the 80s, the Iron Man TV show, like all of them basically, and the X-Men the Animated Series as well, like those are basically kind of like I would say kind of like the first time where basically they were trying to do like a cinematic universe, so to speak, basically, and seeing those crossovers, like all of these like characters together, it was just simply absolutely amazing. So since they brought back the X-Men with the X-Men 97 TV show, I really hope they're gonna bring Spider-Man the Animated Series back, because the show, if anyone doesn't know, it basically end up on a cliffhanger. So I really hope they kind of bring that show back. With the X-Men 97 being popular. I mean, who knows?
Wait, you're not happy with the new Spider-Man we got?
No. Hell no.
Wow.
Now, I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry, but the type of animation they did, I don't like it. I really, really don't like it. Like, I know they were trying to go in that kind of like, comic book old-fashioned way, like, during the Jack Kirby era and everything, but it's not for me. It's not for me. Okay, let's see what you have. What's your thoughts on the Spidey series with Nicolas Cage? I like noir, so I'm interested. It is definitely one of my most one of the most upcoming shows I'm really excited about. Oh, for sure! Like I really cannot wait to see what Nicolas Cage is gonna cook with like Spider-Man Noir. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about it. I mean, what about you guys? Like, are you excited for Spider-Man Noir TV show?
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, didn't we? That I was really looking forward to, seeing more of this character. Obviously, it's in live action, so there's a little bit of nervousness there for me personally. Plus, also, it's not linked to Marvel. It's going on Amazon, isn't it?
I think it's Amazon. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Amazon Prime. So that gives me a little bit of worry because Amazon Prime's not really impressed me. I mean, Invincible's good, but like live action stuff, they haven't had like a Stranger Things type show. You know what I mean? That's just blown up and been elevated to the highest possibility. But no, I think Nicolas Cage definitely fits that type of character. Probably one of his best roles of recent times. Except for playing himself, which is just such a cheap way of getting a paycheck. But overall, I'm looking forward to seeing the direction they take the character. Plus, it'll be very interesting to see how Spider-Noir is going to be introduced in the next Spider-Verse film, because we did see him at the end. What's going to happen? I know there won't be a link, but it's quite nice to see how the Spider-Noir characters overall presence in that film will impact the intrigue for this show. So overall, I'm interested by it.
Yeah. What about you, TK?
Well, first off, I think as long as Sony has their hands nowhere near it, I think it'll be good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. When it comes to Spider Noir, I don't think Sony has nothing to do with it.
The other thing I would say too is, and it took me about an hour and 16 minutes and 53 seconds to get this mention in. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that. I'm not too, I mean, it being live action is a risk, but I'm not too worried about it as long as they get most of the details right. Because as long as they get the details right, it's going to be better than Dragon Ball Evolution. And that set the bar for like live action adaptions, like bad live action adaptions. So I think as long as it gets the details right, it'll be good.
Let's just be frank. Let's just bring all our cards to the table here, okay? Anything that is being done until today or future things, anything will be better than Dragon Ball Evolution, okay?
Morbius was better than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Like Morbius, like if you're gonna compare Dragon Ball Evolution and Morbius, like Morbius takes the price.
Yeah.
Because in Morbius, at least you have some microscopic things that you can watch and enjoy. Dragon Ball Evolution, no. Oh, fuck no. Oh my God. Like, so yeah, anything that was done to today and upcoming things, anything is better than Dragon Ball Evolution. I give you that. So I'm going to say that. Also, Spider Noir is actually coming out on MGM Plus.
That's Amazon, though. That's linked to Amazon.
Oh, I see. Batman and Robin or Dragon Ball Evolution? Shoot me. Batman and Robin. I'm choosing Batman and Robin. Okay? I'm choosing that over Dragon Ball Evolution. There, I said it. Batman and Robin all the way.
Wait, it's worse than Dragon Ball Evolution or better?
It's watchable. It's way more watchable than Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and also, I'm just happy for Nicolas Cage to get some roles these days. I'm just happy to see his career still moving forward. So I mean, I really am interested to see his overall portrayal of Spider-Noir in live action, because so far he only voiced him in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. Yeah, but also, okay, since you put the cat out of the bag about the new friendly neighborhood Spider-Man we're talking about, I'm sorry, the cast is all right, the voices are all right, the designs are okay, but the animation, I'm sorry, I'm not digging it. Maybe I'll give it a go when everything is finished, but I don't know. Like I saw the
How,
trailers.
how
and
many episodes? How many episodes have you watched?
none.
You can't say that. Then you can't say that.
I'm talking the majority. I'm talking about like animation, and also like I've seen some clips and to kind of like just to see at least something to kind of give like a initial thought, basically. So
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
what I'm
okay.
saying. Like the designs and some of the voices I've heard, are fine, but I'm not swallowing that animation. Like to kind of give you an example, the closest thing to this type of animation is like there's a Netflix anime TV series called The Dragon Prince. And one of my friends told me, like, hey, you should give it a watch because it's a really cool show. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. I'm watching it with torture because the animation is the same, almost exact way like Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I'm like, oh my god! I'm sorry. I know that the idea was basically going back to the comic book way, to kind of like kind of trying to copying the old comic book ways and everything. I get the idea, but for me personally, I'm sorry. The animation felt like it's not finished.
I'm going to disagree a little bit. I've watched half an episode, and I have a lot more to go. But so I'm not bothered by the animation. But one of my friends I was talking to recently, he said about Hudson Thames as Spider-Man, he thinks he's trying too much to mimic um, Tom Holland, which I kind of agree with. Hearing the voice in this first episode, I don't know, he might get better. He might make it more his own. But that's my real issue with it, at least half an episode in, is he's trying to mimic Tom Holland too much. I'm not too bothered by the animation. I mean, I'm going to give it a chance. I kind of like the setup. I don't mind the setup. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see where it goes.
No, and to each their own. To each their own. Like you're gonna give it a shot. By the way, like I want to since FRC, I bet you have seen all the episodes so far.
I have, yeah.
Okay, so what are your overall thoughts so far?
I really, really like it. I mean, I do understand where you're coming from with the voice. I did think the voice was a little bit because he's not. I believe the actor's not like a young adult, so I think they're trying to mimic that voice to kind of complement that. But overall, for me, I think the animation is flawless. I mean, every single scene is almost like straight from a comic book. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the What If animation. I think that's poor. So it's between them two shows. I mean, it's like night and day. And I think that's where a lot of people's opinions on animation, just because it's done so differently, it's very, very subjective now. A lot of people have where it works and it doesn't. I think the sets of characters are interesting. It's nice to see some new characters. It's nice to see a few fun cameos in there. I won't spoil it, but there's some nice, some fun cameos in there. So overall, I'm really enjoying it. There are a few negatives, don't get me wrong. We've got the last 2 episodes coming out this week, so I will do a review on the channel. Sorry for the shameless plug, by the way. So overall, no, I'm really, really enjoying it at the end of the day, just because I think, the MCU doing animation has not been great so far with the What If show. So I'm happy that it seems to be turning around with this show.
Okay, fair enough. Again, for me, again, a lot. Some other people told me like, hey, just like you guys, like, I should definitely give it a try. About the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. They're saying actually it's not that bad. Trust me, like, you have issues with the animation, but believe me, when you're like in episode 1 or 2, you're definitely gonna like, not even notice it and everything. I mean, maybe it's true. I don't know, but so far, honestly, I just wish to wait until like the entire show is done. So, or should I say, the entire first season is done, and then basically I will binge all the episodes and to see basically if it's gonna be actually good or not. Despite my problem with the animation, because again, what I said before, like multiple times, but like when it comes to animation wise, like I'm very nitpicky when it comes to like what type of animation I love and everything. So
I will say I do like and I think that What If kind of the animation I agree with in What If, but for this Spider-Man show and the past 2 seasons of What If, I like the release schedule of like daily or in this case a couple episodes a week. I think it works better. I don't know if this Spider-Man show would be good just like doing weekly. I think it's better than dropping them like in batches.
yeah.
I don't know. That just makes more sense to me for some reason.
So what they've done is they've done 2. So they've done 2, 3, 3, 2. So we've got 2 episodes this week, the finale. So there's 10 episodes in total. So yeah, they've not done ones weekly. I think that's because of a topic that we've spoke about on FRC Live over on my channel, is that there's so many TV shows this year. I mean, there's like 6 TV shows on Disney Plus this year. I don't think they can afford doing them weekly. I think the only one that seems to be they're going to do that is Daredevil, just because there's a big gap. But it seems like a lot of these shows are going to get a couple of episodes a week, just trying to fit it all in. And there's only 12 months a year, so they're going to try and make every show kind of have their kind of spotlight, where it's the only Marvel show releasing at the time. So I think they're really pressed for time. That's why they seem to be doing that release schedule. But like I said, TK, I agree with you. I think it's a better structure rather than just weekly.
Well, the other thing too is at what point, I think at some point, whenever you're doing like a weekly show, I think at some point like people tune out and they just say, "Oh, we're just going to wait for the rest and binge the rest when they come out." So I mean, I think at some point that happens, you get a little bit of fatigue. So I think doing like batches kind of gets rid of the fatigue a little bit.
Yeah, I agree on that one. Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you do it weekly, sometimes doing it's fine, but like there are certain TV shows that I think like they work way better if you release them in batches. Basically,
like here's an example how they're releasing the Daima episodes in English. That is so stupid to me.
Yeah.
Because we had the first 3 episodes in the theaters in November here. They should have dropped the first 3 episodes as a batch, or even the first 5 episodes as a batch, and then gone from there.
Yeah, I mean, like, wait, the Dragon Ball Daima, does it have like a Sunday release?
It has, I think so. It's Friday release on Netflix, in Japanese, and I think the English release, I think it's Sunday. I think I'm trying to. I forget. I've lost track of what day it is in English. I think it is a weekend day though. I think it might be Sunday.
Yeah, I was just curious because, like, because I was really curious, like, why the Japanese version always releases on Friday. Because usually the Japanese release day, when it comes to like weekly episodes, is usually on Sunday. So I was kind of curious how come they changed that instead of going like typical Sunday, they went with a Friday release. I was always kind of curious like why they did that.
I want to get I need to get a subscription to Crunchyroll so I can watch the English versions. But I almost want to wait till like June till like it's all done, and that way I can just watch it all at once in one go.
I wouldn't log to Crunchyroll yet if I were you. I don't know going into details, but there's a lot of like crazy things happening on that platform. So I would suggest to just wait a little bit. Okay. So again. Here's gonna be a very difficult question, but which Spider-Man TV show do you think is the most underappreciated? FRC?
Probably Spider-Man 98, just because I think a lot of people rave about X-Men 97, and it is great, don't get me wrong, and obviously they've carried it on, but I think a lot of people just get really mixed up in this idea of, well, there's loads of Spider-Man animations, like why are we just focused on this one specifically? I just think people need to appreciate when Spider-Man excelled and exactly the year in which it came out. Like that was 4 years before the live-action Spider-Man came out. It was released in the same year as Blade, which everyone says began this whole kind of journey of superhero movies being a massive focus. So for me, overall, it deserves a lot more appreciation for just general fans. Like my dad watched it, and he's not a big comic book fan. He just loves watching great movies and TV shows, and he said that it's a fantastic show to watch. So it brought in a much more general audience. So I think it deserves a lot more appreciation for that.
Fair enough. What about you, TK?
This one's going to surprise you probably. Spidey and his amazing pals. Or amazing friends.
The
I
name
kind of like that. It's better than it looks. I mean, I know it's for little kids, but it's better than it looks. I don't know.
Okay. Oh boy. Like, well, I mean, I don't watch like this type of like TV shows. But for me, I have to go with because there's a certain TV show of Spider-Man that I used to watch, a long time ago, like on the Italian channels on the weekend, and it's called. I don't know if you ever. No, I was sitting on a couch, not on a bath.
So was I. It was made out like I was. I wasn't. So was I watching it on the settee, but everyone else turned it quickly into me being in the bath.
Hey, ask TK, not me.
I'm not asking TK. I'm not talking to TK at the moment.
I think that's the problem. The most wisest thing you could do.
Thank you. Move on.
Yeah. Anyway, so the TV show I remember it ever since I was a kid. It was a TV show called Spider-Man Unlimited.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it came in the 90s, and I think like it only lasted like for like a one season, I think. And basically, I think it was like 15 or 13 episodes long, but basically Venom, Carnage, and I think also Green Goblin and Spider-Man, basically they got sucked into like, I think it was like, I don't remember, like they were sucked into in a different dimension or a different planet, or was like, somewhere like, in the like farthest future. But basically, they were sucked into this different world. And basically the main villain was kind of like a version of the High Evolutionary. Basically, he was kind of like the main villain in the story, and basically Spider-Man has to work with like this group of like rebels who are kind of like trying to create this kind of like revolution against the High Evolutionary, who was like the leader of the city that basically that people are trying to liberate from. It was a very bold but all interesting TV show that I remember since I was a kid. So I think like out of all the TV shows of Spider-Man I've seen, this one I think deserves more respect and more appreciation. Spider-Man Unlimited, because it had a really great potential to be a very interesting like multiple seasons TV show for sure.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we go to the next topic, here's my. It's gonna be a weird question, and don't worry, it has nothing to do with bathtubs. But anyway, my question, my question is this: okay, let me try to create the question. Okay, what would be? Okay, if, for example, if Disney or Marvel Studios gave you like liberty to do like a Spider-Man TV show, what kind of a TV show would you create? FRC.
I don't know whether it's or is it can we kind of like gain inspiration from a show that's from something we've already seen before? Because the reason why I asked that is because I really liked Batman Year One and the Batman film that came out a couple of years ago, because what they did was that they gave kind of this like raw. I know Batman and Spider-Man are very different characters written wise, but I like this idea of them just starting out, just trying to find who they are as a hero. Now I know that's been done in other Spider-Man stuff, but I think this kind of idea about him having the responsibility of Spider-Man in that time, not doing an origin story, and him kind of figuring it out, but then kind of cementing his place as a hero, and this idea of, and I think that all like the political conflict as well. I think that's always gives some really good backstory, and I think having the type of natural Spider-Man's tropes in there. Just kind of doing something a little bit like that, where he's a villain, he's a hero that knows exactly what he's doing, but is he doing it for the right reasons? And having this kind of hero where you ultimately feel like he's very conflicted in his ideas based on the situation he's in.
Okay. Very, very interesting ideas for sure. Very interesting ideas. What about you, TK?
I'd like to see a show taking inspiration from No Way Home, where you have Andrew's version of Spider-Man after Gwen's death, where he talked about like he was darker, he didn't pull his punches. I'd kind of like to see that.
Okay, interesting.
Either that or a show where Spider-Man is in the bathtub. I don't know.
Can we please move on with the bathtub?
Please.
Box?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, we joked about it, I think, long enough. Bloody hell.
But I will say TK's has got a really good idea, not about the bathtub. We'll move on. But from the the idea about Andrew Garfield, because that's a deleted scene. Like that was a scene taken out of No Way Home. I think it's available. Oh, for God's sake. Honestly. Right,
I used to eat pizza in the bath. It tasted a lot better somehow after I dropped it in accidentally.
Ryan is an honorary is an honorary prick like myself. I can guarantee you that Ryan was probably intoxicated when he did that, because us Englishmen do some very interesting things when we're intoxicated. But no, just go back onto that scene. That scene was cut from Spider-Man No Way Home, and I was really surprised that scene wasn't in the film, because it gave so much emotion to that kind of character. So extending that for a whole TV show, I think, is a great idea. I'll give you some compliments now after you've just dissed me for the last half an hour.
Okay. I mean, for me personally, like, I mean, it's the type of questions that usually, like, people might know already my answer, but my personal choice would be, I would love to see a villain-centric TV show, more precisely about the Sinister Six.
Oh, shock.
I would love to see like a Sinister Six TV show where basically, like I said, it's villain centric, where basically you have for example Kingpin forming the team and kind of like they go up against like around the city doing like criminal stuff and everything, and like from time to time they end up going up against like characters like, for example, like Spider-Man or Elektra or Black Cat or Silver Sable, or like maybe other like different like Marvel superheroes as well, but that and like for example, like you can start with like basically them being formed and kind of like try to like kind of like work together and basically all the way till the finale. I think like because I still think like that kind of a show could actually work. I mean, I know that Disney usually will have as problems when you have TV shows where basically they're villain centric, but I think like, if you have the right people on board, I think like it could work. I think it could definitely work, so that was kind of like my personal wish, because I always wanted to see the Sinister Six, like on the TV or on the big screen. So with that being said, I think we're gonna go to another very famous territory, of course, and those are of course the Spider-Man movies. I believe that's a territory that you two will feel a lot more easier, like at home, for this one. Now, okay, so my question to you is this: of all the Spider-Man movies that came out, not just the MCU, but like all of them, which ones would you pick as your, to kind of make it easier? Which ones would you pick as your top 3? FRC?
I Across the Spider-Verse is in my top 10 favorite films of all time, so that's definitely in. No Way Home, just because it's a treat for Spider-Man fans. You know, a lot of people will be very negative on the movie in general, but in other parts. But I think, despite me knowing that they were going to show up, I kind of predicted it based on the trailer. It was still such a treat. Like, I will tell a story. When I went to go watch No Way Home, there was a young boy dressed in a full Spider-Man costume, and his face just lit. Like, he wasn't even born when the 2002 film came out, but you could just tell he was just so happy to be in the room and just enjoying the experience of being in the cinema watching a Spider-Man film. I think it was great. And then I will give credit to Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man, because I think whilst the X-Men and Blade kind of began this whole craziness of superheroes, and where they were just, they were the main kind of genre, I think Spider-Man just elevated it to a different level. So yeah, one from animation, one from the MCU, one from the original trilogy. I'll try and be very expansive with my picks. Plus, Spider-Man 2, the only Spider-Man film to ever win an Oscar, so that deserves credit as being probably one of the best. But for me personally, it's them 3.
Okay. What about you, TK?
I would say Spider-Man No Way Home. That's my number 1. Because I mean, just it was incredible. I loved it. I actually remember getting the tickets for it. We crashed the movie ticket websites, which I always took pride in. But so there's that one. I'd say definitely Across the Spider-Verse. I really love that. And actually, I would say, I'd say probably Homecoming.
Okay, fair enough. For me, my top 3, I'm going with now again, I'm trying to go to like a much more bigger range. Kind of being trying to be fair. But I'm going Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I would say those 3 are my top 3 Spider-Man movies, because Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, more precisely because it was just simply revolutionary for what they did with the movie. That's primarily, and of course Spider-Man 2. It was always my favorite from the Sam Raimi trilogy, and of course Spider-Man No Way Home, with all the things that we got, so much nostalgia, so much like nerdgasm. It was just a simply phenomenal film. So those 3 for me are like my top 3. Now, okay, I mean, I think I kind of already know the answer, but I'm still gonna ask it. Which Spider-Man movie do you think is the worst? Go for it.
Spider-Man 3 for me was, I mean, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 film was poor, but I think it was coming off the back of the first Amazing Spider-Man that I wasn't a massive fan of. Even though it was bad, I still think Spider-Man 3 deserves it just because of how good them first 2 films were. I mean, we've spoke so much positivity about that first Spider-Man film, that second one, and then the third one, to see the drop off was was really disappointed actually, because I think it ruins that trilogy massively. I know that one film has to kind of be the kind of the negative one, but to see kind of the way that the Batman Begins is never deemed as good as the Dark Knight Rises, but it's still an amazing movie. And there's no, it's almost like the analogy I use is like a roller coaster. Like, you can have a little bit of a dip and then you can kind of go, but that is literally from up here to down here. Like, so many villains. The way that they had emo Spider-Man was just, for comedic purposes, was just so poorly done. Like, as I mentioned earlier, the way that they messed up with the Harry Osborn stuff. I think Sandman is trying his absolute best in that to kind of give it a bit more of an emotional hook, but it just doesn't work. So, yeah, that'll be mine, would be Spider-Man 3.
Okay, you, TK?
I think mine's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It was just overcrowded and nothing really worked in it.
Yeah, for me, I'm also going with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Because again, I mentioned that before. Like the movie was just felt overstuffed, and there was a lot of things going on in the movie that basically just simply it didn't work together. It did, and it still didn't make me go out of the theater. But seriously, like I was like almost at the brink to walk out of the theater from that movie, because like almost everything about it was just simply bad. Even though no matter how great Jamie Foxx was as Electro, it didn't, for me personally, it didn't save the movie. Because like the movie was just too bad. Like from the story, from like the story for the main story, from like being overstuffed and so many things in it that they just simply it didn't work for me. I will not even forget that alternate scene where basically they reveal that his father survived, and I was like so happy that they didn't put that in the movie, because it would make things even way worse than what they were. And besides, how the hell he survived that plane crash and the wife didn't? Like, just saying. So yeah, definitely Spider-Man 3. The Amazing Spider-Man 3. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is definitely my worst one, for sure. Yeah. Now, my question to you guys is this. What was your very first Spider-Man movie you've seen in the theater?
Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Specifically, Spider-Man film would be Spider-Man Homecoming. Obviously, first performance I saw of Spider-Man was Civil War. But first Spider-Man film would be Homecoming. I remember watching that. I went on my own, just because my mum and my sister was watching a different film. I won't tell you what movie it was because I don't want to embarrass them. Emoji movie. But
oh my god.
My sister was young.
Okay.
And she didn't know any better. She's better. She watches some good films now. But no, I went on my own, and then there was a mum and her 2 kids. And hopefully this doesn't spoil anything for people that are watching. But you know the scene when he's like he picks up. What's the girl's name in it? I just rewatched this film as well. That's terrible. What's the girl's name in it? Is it May? It's not May, is it? What's her name?
Emoji Movie. Let me just check.
No, not Emoji Movie. The girl in Spider-Man, who he fancies.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it was Gwen.
Is that her name, Gwen?
No, wait. You're talking about Homecoming or The Amazing Spider-Man?
No, Homecoming.
Okay. Wait. Shit. What was her name? Just give me a second.
Liz.
Yes, Liz Allen. Yeah. That was her name. Yeah.
So when obviously he takes her to prom and then he shows up and then the big reveal that Michael Keaton's her dad, like spoiler by the way, but like reveal that one of the kids shouted and went, it's the villain, get him. And I just had to laugh. I just had to start laughing. And the mum went, I'm so sorry. After the film, she went, I'm so sorry. They went, no, it's okay. Like, you can't. How can you? You know, it's literally an empty cinema. It was in the middle of the day. Like, I was the only other person in. Like, she didn't need to apologize because I just found it so lovely to see. But yeah, that was the first one I watched. And then No Way Home. And then Across the Spider-Verse. Didn't see Into the Spider-Verse in the cinema, and even No Way Home. Far From Home. So did see Far From Home and Into the Spider-Verse in the cinema, but did watch Across. I watched that opening day packed cinema, and that was a fantastic cinema experience to watch that. But yeah, it'll be Homecoming. What was yours?
My when it comes to like Spider-Man movies, my very first Spider-Man movie that I've seen in the theater was The Amazing Spider-Man 1.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first ever introduction of Spider-Man when it comes to the big screen. Seeing it like for the first time. It was the first Amazing Spider-Man. And I remember like when I went there, like the entire theater was packed when that movie came out. And yeah, that was kind of like that was my very first experience when it comes to Spider-Man on the big screen, for sure.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okie doke.
Yeah, go ahead.
There he is.
Okie dokie. What was the question again?
What was your first Spider-Man movie theater experience?
I think Spider-Man 3. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
My condolences. Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that, to be fair, it's a movie that it wasn't even Sam Raimi's fault. That it was basically the reason behind it was because the studio got involved. Because, like, if I remember correctly, Sam Raimi, when he was doing the Spider-Man 3, he never actually planned to bring Venom into the mix. Not even like for Spider-Man 4. Like, he wasn't even planning to bring Venom in there as well. Like, I remember, like, for Spider-Man 3, he wanted to keep just Sandman as the main villain. In Spider-Man 4, I think it was like the main villain was either the Vulture or Mysterio.
I think it was Vulture.
Was Spider-Man 3? I'm curious.
Yeah, because like the Vulture, he was supposed to be. I think you're right. I think the Vulture was supposed to be the main villain in Spider-Man 4, and he even wanted to bring in John Malkovich as the Vulture.
Ah.
And to be fair, he would have been great as the Vulture. John Malkovich.
It's unfortunate that Topher Grace left that 70s show for Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, also, one of the reasons why I mentioned Mysterio, because you have seen, you remember how in all the 3 movies the Ash character appears. Like in the first movie, he was the wrestling match announcer.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, in one of the other movies, I don't know if it was like 2 or 3, he was like a barman.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. So basically, one of the rumors I've heard is basically the same Raimi was planning to make him Mysterio. Kind of like, yeah, that basically, like, he was kind of like, observing Spider-Man in the background, basically, and then basically Spider-Man 4, I think, like, he basically Spider-Man would have met him basically as officially as Mysterio, and honestly, I think it would have been cool, especially seeing that actor playing Mysterio, because I think, like, because the type of villain that the Mysterio is, I think that actor would have fit perfectly in that role. Because the thing is, Mysterio, even though we can all, even though he looks cool, even though a lot of people still make fun of him that his helmet is like a fishbowl, but even though if Mysterio looks cool, one of the things he's known for is basically that everything he does is just fake.
Mm-hmm.
They're all everything he does are just simply movie effects, because that's basically what he was before he became a criminal. He was a special effects guy. in when it comes to movies. So, and that was always his key. Kind of like, trying to see himself kind of like this like super villain or something special, but in reality, it was all just blowing smoke. He was always a faker, basically. Yeah. So but still, so basically, again, the studio fucking pushed him to bring in Venom, even though he didn't want to, and he even never planned to do it. So I think like that's one of the main reasons why Spider-Man 3 failed, because it was overstuffed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm kind of okay with the way how they did Sandman in the third movie, because like if you look at the comics, Sandman was always like this very sadistic, diabolical, evil criminal with superpowers. He was a guy who was like, cold as ice, never showed any mercy. He always liked, robbing people, hurting people, So I like the idea that Sam Raimi was trying to give him a little bit of heart this time.
You know what?
Kind of like. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I just thought of something. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that I think it was a really great idea that Sam Raimi made Sandman. It's kind of like this tragic villain, basically.
Because that just made me think that, so with tragic villains, that made me think that you could do, if they go for Hobgoblin in a Spider-Man movie, there are two versions I could see them doing. They could do Jacob Batalon. He would be like the easiest, I think. But you know who they haven't shown or really talked about in the MCU at all?
Who?
Uncle Ben.
Right.
What if they had? What if Uncle Ben wasn't such a nice guy in the MCU? What if he was the Hobgoblin? What if they brought him in somehow as the Hobgoblin?
I don't know. I really don't know. But yeah, it was a bit. I mean, I doubted he will come back as Hobgoblin, but like, yeah, it's kind of strange that they didn't mention him at all. Also, Ryan.
I think he'll ruin the narrative of Uncle Ben. I think what was so good about the Spider-Man films in the MCU is that they didn't touch on that because you kind of knew the story already. The one kind of little, well, there's two, when May's kind of mentioning a Homecoming about how she didn't know kind of what to do, and with raising a kid, and she needed Uncle Ben. That was mentioned, and then the suitcase he takes to when he goes in Far From Home, he's got his initials in it, BP. But yeah, no, as you said, I just think he'll do an Amazing Spider-Man 2 thing with the dad being alive, where I think he'll just ruin the kind of image of Spider-Man, and I think because they haven't touched on it, I don't think they will. But no, it's an interesting direction to take it, kind of twist it.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say is I remember whenever I watched No Way Home in the theater, whatever, Aunt May started to go into the whole, with great power must also come great responsibility. I thought, yep, that's it. She's going.
Yeah. When she said that, you knew that she was going to die. You knew that was coming. Also, I just want to say, Ryan said, I really like the look of Venom in Spider-Man 3. No. Sorry, Ryan. His look was awful. Because that's not how Venom looks like. But okay, if you liked it, good for you. Good for you, absolutely. But for me, no, it didn't work. I mean, what about you two? Did you like the Venom look in the Spider-Man 3 movie?
No.
Yeah, we're on the same boat without a paddle.
I think the right person was cast in the role. Topher Grace, I liked him in the role. I thought he was good for the role. I think the role was just badly written.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all the thing, it's all because when the studios get involved and they make the movie even way more sheer than what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, the thing I would say about that movie is I think that movie is the conception of that movie and the execution was not well done. I think the cast, they did well for what they had. Yeah.
So here's another question I have for you guys. So which Spider-Man movie, story-wise, which Spider-Man movie do you think is the best, story-wise?
I think you've got to give massive credit to Homecoming. You know, off the back of Civil War, was, you know, you kind of had to have a few films that kind of looked at the effect of that. You know, kind of Avengers 2.5. You obviously had Black Widow come out later on, but you know, you had Black Widow, Black Panther, and then Spider-Man. You know, a lot of people were really worried about putting Spider-Man in the MCU as his own film, and I thought they did it fantastically. This idea of, you know, humanizing this character, you know, him going from kind of saving the world, fighting alongside the Avengers, to, you know, helping a lady, you know, in the street and tying up a robber after stealing a bicycle. Like, it's just the comparisons are crazy. I've just rewatched this film, like I mentioned earlier, and just the human element of it, I think, was done perfectly well. Him kind of at, you know, school, and then going on, kind of stumbling across this massive thing that links into the Avengers so perfectly. Overall, I think it was a really great story, a really great way to introduce Spider-Man in the MCU, and does a fantastic job making, you know, Tom Holland a household name. He was great in Civil War, but they had their other responsibilities with that film. So to put Spider-Man front and center was fantastic. So for me, overall, it would be Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay. What about you, TK? Story-wise?
I think Spider-Man No Way Home. I liked the story. I thought it was a good concept. I thought it had potential to get overstuffed and over done, but it didn't. I just really liked it.
Okay. Now, when it comes to me, like story-wise, sometimes it was kind of difficult to choose because, like, almost not all of them, but almost every single one of them had they brought something that makes them, you know, unique and wonderfully written. But if I have to choose, like, between all the Spider-Man movies, I mean, when it comes to story-wise, you know, I do have to go. Yeah, I mean, I do have to go with, like, I'm conflicted between Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man No Way Home, because both of them story-wise were written really great.
Mm-hmm.
But if I have to go with, like, you know, the overall, the overall, like, returning of the old characters, the overall, like, kind of like conclusion, this kind of like, you know, Spider-Verse, let's put it that way, you know, the way how they brought all this together, and also kind of like a conclusion to the first Spider-Man trilogy. I mean, I do have to go with, like, No Way Home. I also have to go with No Way Home because, like, you know, again, it could have been a movie that is overstuffed, and also kind of like, you know, a lot of things that could have gone wrong. But the way how they handled it, with all the characters that appeared, from like funny moments to serious moments to, like, you know, the heavy moments, tragic moments, like, you know, all the three Spider-Mans together. Yeah, I'm giving that to Spider-Man No Way Home. Absolutely. Speaking of that, now we're going to the part of I would say, one of the most interesting parts of this. Favorite actor behind the mask, as I like to call it. So, out of all the three Spider-Man actors, which one would you choose as your number one favorite?
Tom Holland for me. I think he balanced being Spider-Man and Peter Parker really well. I think his not to knock Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, but I think, you know, Tom Holland's Spider-Man had the most responsibility with being part of this shared universe, having, you know, a lot more, you know, moments where you're alongside some big, heavy-hitting characters in a shared universe. So overall, I think all of his performances are really great. He has some really great stand-up moments in both Endgame and Infinity War, and also obviously Civil War for a brief moment. So overall, I think it'll be Tom Holland.
Okay, TK.
I would say so. I like Tom Holland a lot, but I kind of like Andrew Garfield. I kind of like the edge that he brought to the character. And I love that in The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2. They kind of made him like really sappy and really like a lot more sappy, which I didn't like, but I liked his portrayal in The Amazing Spider-Man, where he was a little bit darker, had a little more of an edge. So I kind of lean more towards him a little bit, I think.
Okay. For me, I'm gonna have to go with Tobey Maguire.
All three different.
Yep. He is my favorite when it comes to overall Spider-Man performances. Because out of all the three of them, I would say he's the one who brought every single element that what makes Spider-Man great. Especially the one I remember from the animated TV series and of course the comic books. Like he brought the edginess, the darker tone, the serious tone, the comedic moments, the emotional moments. He brought everything into one package. Literally embracing who truly Spider-Man is and everything. So for me, I'm going with Tobey Maguire as my favorite Spider-Man performance. Now, even though again, I will agree that Andrew Garfield's take on Spider-Man was also pretty interesting, and some of them I will even say they had some bold choices. Tom Holland, he is also grew on me as Spider-Man from Civil War all the way to No Way Home, and I really cannot wait to see more of him in the upcoming Spider-Man movies if they ever come out. But yeah, I mean, out of all of them, I have to choose Tobey Maguire because he's the one that I grew up with when I was growing up with Spider-Man, basically, and I feel like he's the one who actually, for me personally, did the best performance when it comes to Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So my question now is this, and this is going to be a little bit cruel. How would you rank the three actors from worst to best?
Garfield, Maguire, Holland.
DK?
I would say Maguire, Holland, Garfield.
And I'm gonna say Garfield, Holland, Maguire. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I love Andrew Garfield as the actor. As an actor, he has some amazing talent. But honestly, I never digged him as Spider-Man. Even though, again, there were a lot of great moments, really great ideas, bold ones as well. But for me personally, he just didn't work for me. Honestly,
I will defend Garfield. Garfield redeemed his character a lot more in No Way Home. He was good in No Way Home.
Yes,
That he was, for me. I did like him in his two films, but I think he definitely was really good in No Way Home. I kind of walked out the cinema thinking, you know what, Garfield did a really decent job in that.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll definitely give you that. In Spider-Man: No Way Home, he actually, I would say, redeemed his performance as Spider-Man. I'll definitely agree on that. Especially the whole scene with MJ, that was oh my god, that was such a really great, well done film moment. Oh my god, bringing all those Gwen Stacy memories back and all that, it was just perfect. And the way, but my favorite part of that is definitely when Andrew basically told MJ "Are you all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah," and then you see him cry. Literally, because he reminded him of that tragic moment, and then MJ is like, "Are you all right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Every time when I see that, it hits me in the heart. Seriously, it's so well done, Now, here's another question I have. So, out of all the three actors, which are your favorite moments from each of these actors as Spider-Man?
Tobey Maguire's would have to be when he finally gets with MJ. I think that's just and the upside for the first time, probably the upside down kiss, just because I think it was just such an iconic moment and gets really glossed over. Garfield, I would say that the MJ moment in No Way Home, as you said, just an emotional moment. And then I would say Holland's. I mean, there were some really cool moments for him. I think he definitely had like when he stole Cap's shield but I would say for me when he was about to kill Green Goblin and then kind of Toby came in and kind of told him. I think that was just a nice moment. And then I think them three together, always a moment that puts a smile on my face is when they're kind of talking about the villains that they fought. And I think that's just kind of like, that's a bit like a brother, like a Three Brothers moment where it's kind of like trying to one up each other. I think that one was like, oh, I fought an alien. Yeah, in space. And he went, wow. And he went, I'm not cool. I defeated a Russian guy in a suit. And I think it was just like, he just kind of knew he got defeated there. So, yeah, that would definitely be my best moment between the three of them.
Okay, what about you, TK?
I think Tobey Maguire, I think the upside down kiss. Andrew Garfield. I'll come back to Andrew Garfield. Tom Holland, I think it was. I'm going to go with FRCs. I'm going to agree with him 100% with the fight with the Green Goblin. Oh boy, Andrew Garfield's tougher.
Favorite Spider-Man, and he's trying to think of a moment.
That's ironic, really.
Yeah. I can't think of a moment for him. Maybe I should change him to my least.
Holy shit! His favorite Spider-Man.
I do know my favorite moment for the three of them was around that part when they're talking about their favorite villains, but it was whenever Tom Holland's Spider-Man is telling the other two about the Avengers, and they go, "The Avengers? What is that? That's great. Is that a band? Are you in a band?" I love that part.
And like the Peter 1, 2, and 3. That's a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the one of my favorite moments, even it was the moment where Andrew Garfield improvised. When he grabbed and he says, "I love you guys."
Yes.
That was such a great moment. Oh my god! Have you finally figured out your Andrew Garfield moment?
I mean, to help TK out, I think a decent moment is at Gwen's dad's funeral when they've got all like the black umbrellas and then he's like watching on and she knows he's there. I think that's quite a cool moment. I think that's probably one of the moments in the Amazing Spider-Man that sticks out in my mind.
Okay, I just got one then. So maybe the end of this might have been the only good thing about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the end of it. Whenever he kind of goes back to being Spider-Man and shows up to fight the Rhino.
Yeah.
Finally, here we go. Yeah, I mean, for me, okay, I'm gonna go like all over the place, but for me, for Tom Holland, again, we're gonna have a trifecta here because like my favorite moment with Tom Holland Spider-Man is also when he was the fight with Green Goblin and when he was trying to finally give him the final blow, that was a really great moment for him as Spider-Man. For Andrew Garfield, because I'm glad you mentioned that moment, TK, because that's literally my favorite moment of Andrew Garfield at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he goes fighting the Rhino, and he's like, in the name of the people in New York City and real rhinos everywhere, I command you to raise your mechanical paws up. And he's like, you want me to come down and fight? Yes, I'll be right there. And then he basically gives back to the cop, and he's like, it's great to be back. Again, it's the very last scene, but it's one of my favorite moments. Besides the MJ part, that's definitely one of my favorite moments. For Tobey Maguire, there's a lot of great moments that I have for him, so it's kind of difficult for me to to choose which one I will take. But because but if I have to choose like a moment, I will definitely say it's the train scene.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would say
Yeah,
that's
I'm
my
changing
favorite.
mine. I'm changing mine. It's the train.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's the train scene, like the entire sequence, not simply with like the way he was fighting Dr. Octopus, but like but even like the whole thing trying to stop it, and then you see the citizens like saving him and everything. Like, man, it's such a powerful moment. So I would say when it comes to Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, that's my favorite moment. Oh my god, I mean, the closest one to me was literally when he was fighting Dr. Octopus in the end. Like especially with that iconic meme when he's like, he screams. If you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely like my favorite one when it comes to like Tobey Maguire. Now we're basically going to, I would say, another topic. Maybe you guys are not much into video games, right?
No.
Okay, then we will be we'll be quick on this one. But did you ever played any Spider-Man video games before? When you were kids?
Yeah, vaguely. I can remember a few. I can't really remember their names, but yeah, I can vaguely remember. And then like the PlayStation, I've not got a PlayStation, but I've played a few bits of the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man games, but not much that I can really concrete have an opinion on.
Okay, you TK?
Yeah, no, not really.
Fair enough. For me, there were actually quite a few Spider-Man games I played, but the ones I remember the most are the first one that was based on the first movie. That's the first video game I think I was kind of introduced to when it comes to Spider-Man. The other one I remember, it was on PlayStation 2, and very simple game, but I really, really liked it. It was called Friend or Foe, where basically you play not just simply as Spider-Man, but you also play, as like the villains in this game as well, which I thought was kind of cool. And the other one, of course, is gonna be the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man alongside Spider-Man 2 and Miles Morales Spider-Man video game. I mean, like those games. I mean, Miles Morales' Spider-Man game was fine, but Spider-Man 1 and 2, oh my god, they were like one of the best video games ever done in the history of video games. Like not just simply gameplay wise, but story wise as well. Like they were really well done. I mean, you can enjoy this game even just watching the cutscenes. You can even watch them on YouTube, like all the cutscenes, like transform into some sort of like a movie, like a 2 to 3 hour movie, and you can still enjoy this game because, like just simply story wise, it's really well done, and the voice acting is just simply great. And you wanna see our Rhino done right? Well, Marvel Spider-Man video game, that's where they've done Rhino right when it comes to design wise and everything. So okay, I told you that would be short. Okay, so now the future of Spider-Man. Now this can go in multiple ways, but so I'm trying to kind of okay, to make it easier. What kind of future do you see for Spider-Man in the MCU? FRC?
I mean, it depends. It's a really, really hard one because we spoke on my channel the other week about how the MCU is kind of going to now maneuver its way into what we're going to see in Doomsday and Secret Wars. And obviously Spider-Man 4's got to come into it somehow. We don't have any news about a release date for that officially. We know it's going to be 2026. So I'm guessing it's going to be in the middle of the two Avengers films. Whether he'll be in Doomsday, which comes out before, but we're not sure. So I think there's so many unanswered questions with it. Obviously, the state of Spider-Man at the moment is that, nobody knows who he is, and he kind of starts his new life as you see at the end of No Way Home. So it's a very, very difficult question to answer, just because I've not got a lot of information to go off at the moment. I definitely think he'll be part of one Avengers movies, if not both. How will Spider-Man 4 link into that? I think there's a lot of unanswered questions in the MCU at the moment about placement of characters, where they're going to end up. Because I don't want to make this an MCU kind of topic of conversation, but when you've seen in the past when Avengers movies have come up, all the characters have been in a particular place that kind of works with the Avengers. I'm not sure with the amount of characters they have whether everybody's in the right place to battle Doomsday in Avengers, Doctor Doom in Avengers. So, I definitely think obviously Spider-Man 4 will be absolutely massive. It's going to come out in a huge year, not only for the MCU, but also comic book movies as well. Obviously, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man has done really, really great. And, we'll have to see exactly how that's going to kind of go along, whether we're going to have a season 2 of that and how it kind of fits in. I think that's a great point that Ryan makes about Miles Morales. But again, there's a lot of unanswered questions about the next Spider-Verse film. I mean, the actors apparently have started voice work without even a solid script. I mean, that's mind-blowing, particularly in an animated format. So there's a lot of unanswered questions in terms of Spider-Man films, particularly both in the MCU and in the Sony stuff. I mean, they've obviously shelved the Sony Spider-Man universe for a while, which is a really good decision. And we'll have to see what happens with Spider-Man Noir. So overall, I think the Spider-Man franchise has a lot of unanswered questions in all aspects of the Spider-Man films and TV shows.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, TK?
I think I would jump on the back of what FRC is saying. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about what they're going to do with him, how they're going to use him. I think that, especially in the MCU, the setup they have going forward, nobody knows who he is. I think it's an interesting setup. I think it very much could make for an interesting story. I have no clue what they're possibly going to do. I mean, I think FRC's spot on when he says there's a lot of uncertainty with it. I mean, I really have no idea which way they're going to go with it. I mean, I'm interested to see. I'm really excited to see, but I mean, I just have no idea.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, like definitely, like the future of Spider-Man when it comes to the MCU wise, is basically it's really like unwritten so far because like the release, we did actually have a release date. I mean, so far as the rumors have said, like which was supposed to be like a little bit later, Avengers Doomsday in 2026. Some of them even suggested that Spider-Man 2 will actually come out in 2027. Basically Spider-Man 4. So again, the rumors are all over the place, but so we really don't know. And again, what's going to happen. But I also do agree that not everyone no one knowing who he is and everything. That's actually kind of also I will find an interesting approach. But the one thing I wish to see in the future of Spider-Man when it comes to MCU. Okay, I know that he's going to be in Doomsday. I know he's going to be in Secret Wars. But, like, besides those two events, I'm really hoping that the Spider-Man movies, again, it depends on how far Tom Holland will go. But I really hope they stay grounded. Like, on the street level stories. Like, for example, give me a story about Spider-Man, for example, trying to go up against Kingpin. Like, for example, like he's teaming up with, I don't know, Daredevil or Punisher or Echo even. Like, just give me, like, like, for example, make Kingpin is kind of like the street level Thanos, basically, so basically, like, because again, even though I love Spider-Man No Way Home, I don't want the next Spider-Man to be another, like, galactic or like, multiverse story, that's one of the reasons why I also appreciate Far From Home and Homecoming, because even though with everything being done in the MCU, they were still at least more street-like stories unlike No Way Home. So I'm really hoping that with Spider-Man 4, I really hope they return back to the old ways of kind of like trying to tell like a streetwise story, like for example about Spider-Man while Peter Parker, for example, he's in college or something. And also,
I don't think they will. I think the expectations has got too big now, and I think the world has got too crazy. That I think if you kind of dial it back to that, I don't think a lot of people would be, massively appreciative of an MCU edition that feels very grounded. I think they'd like to want to go a different route and basically, kind of contribute to this like multiverse, like massive story, especially with the placement of Spider-Man 4 so close to two massive Avengers movies, arguably bigger than Infinity War and Endgame. I can't see them going backwards. I don't think they can afford to. I think they've tried that in Phase 4 and 5, be a bit more experimental, do some things differently, and it's not worked. I think they need to make sure that Spider-Man is the best one it can be.
Actually, that's where I kind of disagree with you a little bit, because I don't think it needs to be on a story on a bigger level, because because the real deal here is, as long as you have a good story, it doesn't matter at what state is the MCU, or where the overall saga went and everything, because you can still because you can still in the at the end you can still say a Spider-Man story that is street level story and be good, basically. So again, it all depends on what kind of a story you have, but I don't think it necessarily needs to be on a cosmic level, multiverse level, or something like that. I don't think it needs to be, because, and that's because
I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. I just think Marvel now are really, really starting to, think to themselves, okay, we need to make every movie as massive as it possibly can be. And I think they had them experimental stages where they could do no wrong. Now, we've seen over the last few years with the Marvels, that big drop off. Eternals didn't do anything. Doctor Strange 2 was not great. In my opinion, Thor: Love and Thunder got really, really, really shown its negativity. So I think they're trying to just make sure that these solid characters with massive fan base can contribute the most amount it possibly can in its film. And I think Spider-Man now has got the responsibility of kind of being the face and the lead, the face of the MCU, just because it is such a popular superhero.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the whole point, because the fans of the MCU now, they want they want the opposite. The fans now they literally want Spider-Man, the next Spider-Man movies, not to be on a global, on a cosmic scale. They wanted to go back to the basics, basically, like I said before, a grounded, street level story, where basically, he fights villains for example, the Hobgoblin or Chameleon or Shocker, or basically without any whatsoever connections to the multiverse, or what's coming in Doomsday, basically, because because again, it could go in multiple directions. Let me make this straight. Let me make this clear. It could go in multiple directions, but the thing is that what a lot of fans want, including myself, is that just for them to simply deliver a normal Spider-Man street level story, because
and I hope they do that. I really, really hope that they do that. I just can't see them doing that at this point in time. I just don't think they want. I just don't. One, I don't think they can afford to do it, and two, I don't think they want to do it, because I think there's a lot of these projects which do feel a little bit like, okay, they were nice for, build, setup or clarification on some things, or kind of an appreciation project. I think when you've got big responsibilities of trying to make these Avengers movies as cinematic and as cinematic and kind of the culmination of everything possible. I think they've got to look at certain projects and how can they benefit the most from that. So I would love to see it. I think we got it in Homecoming at the right time, and I think at the moment with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, they want to kind of do that in an animated format. So, and I think they can afford to do that. I don't think they can afford to do a movie on that again. I think they'll probably do it in parts of Spider-Man 4 because they've got to get people kind of back into that world and back into Spider-Man's story. I just don't know how well it can kind of work and how believable it will be.
So Ryan said, I'd love to see Grounded, but I don't think it will work after the world-ending threats. I don't know how believable it would be now being in danger with a strict level threat. I mean, okay, I mean, I can see your point, Ryan. I can definitely see it, where you're coming from and everything. But, like, at the end of the day, the MCU is a shared universe. And in a shared universe like that, you can have stories that are like on a smaller scale and on a bigger scale, and still make it functional. And so that's why I believe that Spider-Man, you can do like a grounded story, even with the whole multiverse thing going on, because again, even if you have like a good story on your hands and everything, I still like, a story like that could find its place. Like I said, like a cinematic shared universe.
I agree it can find its place, just not in a Spider-Man film. I think it's got to be another character. I don't know who, but I think you can kind of do that with somebody different, not Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man's too much developed in the universe to go backwards now.
I don't know. I mean, what do you think, TK?
I don't know. I'm kind of mixed between it. I'm kind of in between.
No, okay, fair enough. I mean, like, if you want to, like, on a global scale, I mean, like, you can, for example, for Spider-Man, one day they can do, like, for example, the symbiote war, where basically, you have Spider-Man, Venom, Carnage, and all the other, like, symbiotes basically fighting Null, basically, and you also, in those kind of stories in the comics, you also have other Avengers involved, in this war, basically, kind of like helping them against this threat, so you can, if you want, if they're interested, they can also do a story around that, basically. I mean, anything is possible. But I think like a mixture of grounded and on global scale, I think like, you can find a balance between those two. I think you can. And with that being said, like before we go to the closing statements, my final question is this to you two. What are your personal wishes that you wish to see in the future of Spider-Man?
Kind of something very similar to where we keep asking with Batman and Superman, where they have got this kind of rogue gallery of villains, kind of being a little bit more experimental with villains, having different ideas, not being afraid to kind of push it out there. I mean, Spider-Man has got some really solid villains that will definitely fit in the MCU as a very street level villain if you want to go down that route. So yeah, probably just different villains and kind of explore some people new instead of going on this kind of like Rolodex of, yeah, well, somebody tried it in the past and it worked, so we're going to use this one again. Like, you can't keep relying on past films villains that were good to kind of then try and do something different. Why don't you just do something different altogether?
Okay. Yeah, very good. Very good. TK?
I think for me, Ned becoming Hobgoblin.
Ooh, I think that would be actually a great twist for Ned becoming a Hobgoblin. Like, I think that would be a great twist, like a battle between two friends. I think, that would be a really great twist. Kind of like, like a Spider-Man version battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, basically.
Yeah,
I think that would be cool.
But don't mess it up and put Ned in a coma after the first fight and then him just forget everything. Like,
yeah.
You've got to do it throughout the whole film.
Yeah, I agree. I like, for example, what I would love to see is basically if you're gonna bring Ned as the Hobgoblin, I would love that this change becomes permanent. Like,
Yeah,
I do agree. Not like, like, okay, they're enemies for the entire movie. Then basically, somewhere near the end, he's in a coma or he has like, amnesia or something, and basically, he forgets everything, and he's like, oh, I'm good, I'm good. Hey guys, how are you? Like, what's up? Hey, like. Like I really don't want to see that. Although it's kind of impossible now because even Ned doesn't remember who Peter Parker is. So I think like I think like it would be all the same to the to the storytellers. But for me personally, like speaking when you mentioned when you mentioned the villains, I would love to see like Spider-Man going up against like villains, for example, that never appeared on screen. Like I said, like I mentioned before, like I would love to see him go up against villains like the Black Tarantula or Beetle or like the Right Way of Chameleon or making him up against like villains like Tombstone or Hammerhead or White Rabbit, or even like hell, I would even love to see him go up against like Jack O' Lantern or like Grizzly, who is basically a bear version of Rhino. Like I would love, basically the point is I would love to see him go up against villains that were never used before, because I do agree, like yes, they can use the old villains, but that will not always be the case. Like sometimes you do have to choose something else, because again, the Vulture was never a very famous villain, and with Michael Keaton playing him, now he's iconic as a villain. Just like the same thing with Mysterio, even though Mysterio was a little bit more popular than the Vulture, but same thing. So yeah, I would definitely see more of the Rogues Gallery. I would love to see that for sure. And also one more addition, I would love to see him introduce in the Spider-Man movies, like characters like Silver Sable or Black Cat. I would love to see one of those two in the movies. And with that being said, my dear fellow members of the jury, do you have any closing statements?
not me personally. I just obviously Spider-Man, as I said in the intro, is one of the most popular comic book characters of all time. You see kind of with every new generation, kind of this character still, being popular. I think it's just so relatable to a lot of people, and they make some fantastic films. Not great films as we've spoken about today, but overall the character will always be fantastic, really, really iconic, and hands down one of my favorite comic book characters of all time.
Okay, then. Very nice closing statement. What about you, TK?
I think I would just say that he's probably one of the best written characters. I like that he's kind of a vehicle to an extent, for the reader, like sort of like the eyes and ears of the reader, sort of, to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, for me as well, like he was always one of my top 10, like, favorite Marvel superheroes of all time. I love the idea of like him being a teenager, and also wearing a mask that which kind of shows that he could literally be anyone, which is kind of one of the reasons why the other Spider-Mans were created. Everything about him, like from the origin story, the way how he was written, the character of Peter Parker, his Rogues Gallery, like everything about Spider-Man, is so iconic that he was always be one of my like cult, like favorite and famous superheroes of all time. And no matter what kind of project they bring him out with, I will always watch him, no matter what. Like he is literally one of the best superheroes in our culture, like period. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to an end to another Shadow Council episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, like all three of us together did. I sure hope so. But you guys, like always, the drill. Comment, like, subscribe, give me your personal thoughts about Spider-Man in general. What did you thought about? What did you thought about like the Shadow Council episode in general? About thoughts about the Spider-Man movies, TV shows, everything about Spider-Man in general in the comment section down below. Also, if you're interested in the previous Shadow Council episodes, the link will be in the description down below as well. But until then, please subscribe to this great badass Film Review Central for more videos in the future. And of course, don't forget TK the Lucky Bastard as well. And until then, stay tuned for more. And like always, Lord of Shadows, signing off.
Lucky Bastard out.
FRC sounding off.
And in the wise words, remember, kids, with great power comes great responsibility. Later, fuckers.